From Next 47, this is the AI Unveiled podcast with me, Gaurav. In this episode, I'm speaking with Dominik Kovacs, the founder and CEO of Colossyan, an AI video platform for workplace learning that generates lifelike avatars. Before starting Colossyan, Dominik was working at the intersection of AI and video. So we start by discussing his background and why he started the company. We discussed the value proposition of synthetic videos in workplace learning. I asked Dominik about the end user's perception, how close we are to passing the Turing test, and what the implications may be. I also asked Dominik to compare what Colossyan does to general text-to-video services like Runway and Pika Labs. We then get into the nitty-gritty of the models that power these avatars and how one could create their own personalized avatar. They just released the ability to do this over a webcam. This was such a fun episode. And who knows, maybe the last one I'll do versus my lookalike avatar. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to AI Unveiled. Today I'm speaking with Dominik Kovacs. Dominik, welcome.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. It's a pleasure being here. It's a great opportunity to speak in this session. There is a great traction going on within the world of AI, generative AI, and I'm happy to talk about our story and how we got to where we are with Colossyan.
Great. I'm excited to have the discussion. Maybe to kick things off, for those who may not know, what does Colossyan do?
So as you said, we are the AI video platform for workplace learning. So you can create a studio quality video with an avatar who is actually a real life human presenter in more than 120 languages. And we have two key areas of value propositions. The first is you can reduce third-party vendor costs for your company. And the second is you can even increase your revenue. So if you use it for, let's say, sales enablement purposes, you can train your salespeople better and faster with video. So normally, our clients compare the engagement rates with text that they had before in comparison to the easy videos they're able to do with our solution. We primarily work with mid-market to enterprise companies in terms of size. That's our niche as of today.
Awesome. And we're going to dig quite a lot into some of the technology and the reaction and the opportunities. But before all of that, why don't we just start with your founding story? What's your background? What was the inspiration to get started on this journey?
So I'm originally from Budapest, Hungary. I always believed that AI would have a large effect on our society together with space and renewable technology. That's why I decided to study in Copenhagen, Denmark, renewable energy in the beginning. So I had no connection to AI at all. But then I realized that physics wasn't that exciting in the applied level to me. So I shifted completely to computer science, mathematics, and machine learning, which is like in this category. And I always had a large passion for cinematography, like motion picture, movies, trailers, and if you have such desire, you are drawn to the visual side of things. And back in 2018, I started working with what we call today generative AI as a sort of machine learning engineer. And it was so obvious that this was the immediate future of content creation. Back then, nobody knew about the field, only the people who were touching the technology. It wasn't as hyped as today. And I always wanted to start my own thing. So we had two other founders, three in total with myself, and we founded the initial business, which was more of a cybersecurity oriented application. That failed. We burned all our personal money eventually, and afterwards we ended up trying to attack the insurtech direction and also the fintech direction from a cybersecurity perspective. So detecting these AI-generated videos, to be more specific, but those directions failed as well. And in 2021, Colossyan was founded as a final sort of idea, which was on the content creation side, and that's how the current version of the company began, a little bit more than 2 years ago.
Yeah, and it's you said the word fail, but in a way, you hear the word pivot, and I'm sure you learned a lot of things. And it was very interesting to me the first time I met you that your pre-product market fit idea was detecting synthetic videos to a certain degree in a different use case. And then you probably had a lot of learnings from there. And then the technology was maturing as well. And then you shifted gears, but in a similar space to actually creating some of those videos, which is pretty incredible. Can you talk about a few of the customers that you serve so we can, better understand how exactly, some of the use cases and examples of how you're serving your customers?
Yes, so internal training and communication is our primary use case. This is cross-departmental across L&D, HR, R&D, and also commercial go-to-market functions. Some of our customers that we are working with include Novartis, Hewlett Packard, BMW, BASF, or Paramount. And we are basically helping their internal teams to become like people with superpowers. Like I think if you are building like an amazing product in the SaaS software space, what you have to achieve is to get your champions promoted, because that's when you know like you are building an amazing solution. And when we hear our sort of customers say that other departments feel like they are cheating, that's what you want to hear as a founder, right? That you are building like a 10x or a magnitude different solution in terms of tackling their challenges.
Yeah, I've heard when technology works, it's like magic. This is the first time I'm hearing when technology works, it's like cheating, but I guess you're programmatizing the videos, which is very interesting. Like you're already, obviously, talking to these customers like Novartis in the workplace training and internal communication, and probably building a lot of subject matter expertise and thoughts there. What's your vision about, in general, what do you think workplace training will look like and it will evolve to in the next 5 to 10 years?
In my opinion, the field is really constrained after we quit this whole COVID pandemic. Everyone, like most of the companies went either hybrid or remote, and there is like a large demand for digitized content creation. In-person communication got reduced. There's less like classroom training as well. And that puts loads of pressure on the content creation side. And I see so many problems with or challenges with tough concepts that people are not able to understand easily via text-only content, because it's all about personalization for communication itself. Like sometimes you want to consume text, video, or audio, and what we provide with Colossyan is this customizability. Additionally, personalization is a huge factor, not just in marketing, but also in communication, right? So if you are creating content personalized for like an audience or a team, that just scales the complexity of your initiative. And if you are building an easy solution for creation of complex videos, in our case, that just falls in line with the high-level industry trends, which is all about personalizing the experience, because it also helps with the engagement rate, which is directly in correlation with even revenue. So that's incredibly important. Additionally, scalability in terms of localization. So the fact that we support more than 120 languages is a big selling point to all these large firms, because they wanna create content in their departments in specific countries, because either people are not speaking English or they have much better loyalty towards the employer if they hear native content, which is proven by data. So that's also an effort that is continuously going on in terms of localization and sort of automated localization. So to make that easy. Another factor, and maybe a final one that's worth measuring, that is currently trending now is more of an on-demand experience. So currently, if you were creating content, it's not really a collaborative manner, because it's been like a big hassle of creating like a complex video. It indeed required like a team, and they done some collaboration, but it was a very complex process. But with providing an easy software that you can use with your team, and you can provide feedback, and you can iterate on an existing piece of content that you created already, that brings just more creativity for the whole flow. So what we are doing here is similar to what Figma has done in the design space. That design wasn't really solved to be as collaborative as it is today. And what we see from the market is that they really appreciate that they can involve their stakeholder and also audience members much earlier in the creation process, which results in also faster execution and higher quality content, which is amazing. Maybe just the final thing is content chaos is definitely a big problem within our space. So there is simply too much content created with solutions that exist today, and that's in line with what we are trying to solve. Because, for example, if you imagine that if you create some kind of a tutorial about an onboarding process, and 6 months later it gets outdated, that content will live somewhere in your system, and you will have to either delete it or people will watch it, but it will be outdated. This is what content chaos is about. But if you can easily update your videos, in our case, and update that automatically across all your systems, then this content chaos effect is reduced. And this is one of the top problems in the C-level leadership. So
Got it.
That's also a very interesting one, I would.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll just paraphrase a few things. One, it is, the ability to update existing content, because now everything it's programmable video. That's number one. Number two is going from text to multiple form factors, including video. And number three is personalization. Now, when you said personalization, you used the word teams right after. What are your thoughts on personalizing for the individual? Is that a trend that you're seeing as well, or that's not so prevalent?
I think it's definitely a trend. So each individual in a work setting has a personal circumstance, or they have desires for upskilling themselves, or they have personal levels of interest. And what we are talking about here is a statistical increase in engagement. So the more we are investing, of course, in the personalization, the better. But it also has a curve, like how much it's worth investing into, right? I would say it's definitely interesting, but for now we care primarily about team level personalization when we give advice to our customers, because that's something they haven't done either, and that's just easier to execute if you're not used to doing personalization in your content creation strategy.
You obviously in the business of creating synthetic avatars as one of your core capabilities. How do organizations perceive this technology? How the end users perceive avatars? They probably know that it's a synthetic avatar versus a real life human. What learnings do you have in terms of humans' perception to your technology?
For external use cases, external training or communication, they try to hide the fact that it's so-called synthetic. Most of the companies, they claim that this is AI generated, or these are like avatars. For some cases, they don't, and surprisingly, the audience members believe these are real people because the quality is already so high for these use cases. So there is a mix there that I see on the market, but overall, people appreciate it because compared to the content they received previously, it's much more engaging. And also, we are making the product in a way that you can create like different scenes which are like different to one another, so it captures attention. But in my view, this is still suboptimal. My hypothesis is that there is demand on the market now in comparison to text, is because the engagement level with video is higher. But if we can make videos interactive, so you can engage with the video, you can have quizzes, branching, or knowledge checks. So when you are watching a video, you won't start thinking about your lunch, but rather you have questions appearing and questions are being asked. Then it could be a lot more powerful experience. So that is what we are investing into.
So instead of kind of a one-way video, there's this interactive experience where the avatars are sentient enough to understand what the end user is saying and respond. Is that something you think is important to your use case and part of your company's future?
It's most definitely important. With that, the engagement level of the video would increase. It would be even better than a traditional video. The reason why the market is looking for such solutions as ours now is because they understand how the engagement level is different with video in comparison to text. And we want to include knowledge checkers, different branching and quizzes in the video. So not even the avatar, but the entire video experience would be on demand based on your engagement. And this would result in much better success metrics for our customers, and we already validated the demand here, and we are going to release the first version soon.
Amazing. And you mentioned the term personalization. I also hear the term micro-learning quite a lot. And one can imagine once you have this interactivity, you don't have to go to the next video. It's just part of an existing discussion, right? A dialogue instead of a monologue, which could be pretty exciting, but also, at least in my opinion, a little bit scary, especially maybe outside of your core use case. But that's what innovation is, I suppose.
And imagine if you have a knowledge base, maybe sales playbook, and you can upload that, and the whole video would be created based on your knowledge base. So instead of you creating it one by one, like branch by branch, you could just have one source of truth document in this case.
Awesome. Now, a video is not just an avatar. There are other aspects of a video based on the use case, and then you also have more generic text-to-video companies like Runway ML, like Pika Labs, which has gotten a lot of buzz. Could you maybe talk both about, what is that perfect video? How much of it is the avatar versus other stuff? And does your technology either compete or complement these more generic text-to-video products like Pika Labs?
Absolutely. The artistic imagery that they implement is fascinating in my view. It's so exciting to see the advancement there. I think we will definitely leverage this technology sort of as an API solution to also have with our background video generations. But I don't see this as a competing solution. If you think about the end user here, who is an internal communications expert, or who is a technical trainer in an R&D lab, they won't be able to generate such prompts that will allow them to create an excellent video. Imagine that if you have some sort of a process in your mind that you want to communicate or teach people, you either have the option to start thinking about prompts or a prompt-like setup, which is hard in my opinion. Like you need this prompt engineering mindset for that, right? And constant iterations. Or you just have a really easy interface, a UI, that's incredibly easy to use, and you create your video that way. I think number two is the future, and that's what we are betting on.
Yeah, so in a way, I mean, there are somewhat different use cases, and maybe there are even situations where if both of you provide certain APIs or one of you does, you can have a combination of the two. But if I understand correctly, especially for internal workplace learning, you want A, the synthetic avatar, which is very important, and B, if you have other interactive elements, it almost is a little bit more PowerPoint-like experience versus prompt-like experience. Is that a good way to summarize it?
That is precisely so. If you want like an interactive video, then you won't be able to create such an experience with like a Runway, right? Because you can create a video, but then how are you going to boost that or make it even better? So that is the way we think about that. And I also want to highlight that the reason why we believe we have an edge with our technology is because research shows that if you have a real person in your video, then your engagement level and attention will be higher. So that is what we want to allow our creators to do.
Now, I was blown away when I first saw your website and the lifelike. I think you had your own synthetic avatar, right? And I had met you in person, and then I went to your website and saw you, right? And I was blown away. And you've mentioned a couple of times how hard it is, which I'm not surprised by. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what the core technology is in building a lifelike video avatar?
I would say our product itself has three really difficult areas. The first is the AI tech itself, where we are using like several neural networks to create your synthetic avatar, and also to manipulate like how they move their head and mouth and also their hand gestures now. So that's a complex field by its nature. The second one, which is incredibly complex, is machine learning in production, so AI in production, so deploying your models and making it scalable. That's something that we invested heavily into compared to like a different kind of compared to a technological company that doesn't have an AI heavy background. We have also a heavy infrastructure team with platform engineers that are working on applying this tech on our servers and making it scalable. That's really complex that we face loads of difficulty with in the early days and today as well, to be honest. And the third is, if you want like a really easy experience and your end user is someone who doesn't have a technological understanding or a video creation understanding, then how can you package this into like a really easy UI that you can just use and create an excellent looking video?
Yeah. One of the things that I talked to in my job, both in the podcast and other ways, I talk to lots of AI first companies, let's call it. And AI first is not equal to AI only. And what I mean by that is, yes, through AI, you can generate this awesome video avatar. You can maybe to text to prompt have the script and etc. But at the end, there's probably some editing to be done, which I think you're talking about in terms of your UX. And a lot of your customers have been using Final Cut Pro, etc. And now they're probably going to short circuit a lot of that, but still have some editing to get to that final level, which is something which you mentioned, I think, in the third category. Now, we say synthetic video avatars. We said that a few times, but it's not entirely synthetic, where it's Dominik's avatar and Gaurav's avatar. Can you talk a little bit about, if I want my avatar, what do I need to do? And I think you now have a newer product, lighter weight product, but elaborate a little bit more on what the options are.
Yeah, so it's a fairly straightforward process. We need like 5 minutes of recording from a person where they are reading English tongue twisters. The reason for that is because then we can understand their facial expressions and how they make specific sounds, and then we can use that for training their own sort of avatar on the recording data, and then via an inference step, if you type in new data, which is like new text in our case, then we can move the facial expressions accordingly. So that is on a high level how it works. We are researching heavily into other sort of different architecture-based technologies, which will allow even more customization on the facial regions. I think in the future, people should be able to generate their own avatar and how it looks, sort of a Sims-like experience in an easy way. So companies could create their own branded characters, which would look 100% realistic. In that case, my statement wouldn't be true that we work with real content, because then it wouldn't be real.
And be fully synthetic.
Exactly, but with the same results as today. So that is the future. Also, branded clothing and changing the attire. That's really exciting in my opinion as well.
Yeah, I was listening to a Roblox earning calls, and I think once you get to that, there's a lot of applicability on one more use case, which is games and other kind of metaverse type of situations. Broadly speaking, how do you think about accuracy and quality, and what steps do you do to ensure that you're at that threshold before releasing something to production?
That also took us a while to figure out, because it's a QA process and it's hard to implement as a small company. We are using quantitative surveys, so we have a pool that we leverage, like an audience pool, and each step, like when we are releasing a new avatar, we gather scores, and we have an average score with us, with other companies too. So we are not just analyzing ourselves, but other companies as well. And if we have a new technological advancement, then we are running a new survey, sort of like a new iteration, and then we measure in a quantitative way. As you can imagine, I've been looking at these videos for 6 years now, and it's really hard even for me to spot the difference. But sometimes I can. But without these surveys, we would have like blind spot. But our AI researchers tell me that they can still see like the small differences. I cannot that much. So if they come up with an improvement or there is something fishy going on, but we implemented this robust evaluation framework with these surveys, and it works well.
In your use case, you have kind of two types of quote unquote product updates. One is the creation of a new avatar, and the other one is just updating your models, for example. And in the first one, it's a bit more qualitative, where you as a company review it and then have a third-party service where humans are saying, yep, it looks good to me. And in the first one, it's much wider scope, because every avatar is updated. You have a quantitative kind of source of truth, ground truth layer that you're able to calculate against. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. This is how we are conducting this.
Cool. Now, cost and gross margin is something that I hear a lot in terms of concern for even text-based AI solutions. I can only imagine for video-based AI solutions, it's even more complex and kind of heavyweight, the computation. Is that true, and how do you deal with it?
That is definitely true. And I always had the priorities around building a great business. It's really concerning that if you are an AI-first business as us, and you are scaling and you are investing more money into acquisition, and you will eventually lose a lot of money because you haven't been optimizing your gross margins. So ever since the early days, we set up like a different team that is working on cost reduction and optimizing our algorithms. And this has a dramatic effect that improved our gross margin so much over a year's time. And I think with this, we can remain extremely competitive and we can reinvest a lot more money into our growth engine. So I'm really satisfied with the steps we made. And now next year, we will be looking at a extremely healthy SaaS software gross margin that we can achieve. So I'm really excited about that.
Okay, great. And in a way, because you're not using just APIs from OpenAI, for example, maybe you do use that at the edges, but you're using your own proprietary model. So you have a lot more control when it comes to caching or the model itself.
I think this is the benefit of building internally. I think the best AI companies of these days will be the ones that have internal expertise and can control their own fate, not just from this perspective, but other as well. But gross margin optimization is incredibly important in this game.
Yeah, wonderful. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about your internal org structure, right? How are your product and engineering teams structured in terms of innovating, specifically when it comes to AI research, AI modeling? Are they a separate team? Are they part of the kind of broader team? How do you divide up the team?
This is one of my favorite topics because you can always do this better, and it's sort of an art as much as a science, as I see it. And so we have three departments. The first is research that takes care of the IP, the proprietary technology itself. The second is engineering, and in the engineering we have front-end and full-stack engineers working on product features, and also the platform team that takes care of the scalability of our servers and ensures that the research team can ship their innovations. And the third department is product, where we have design, data, and product management overall. We've been doing a lot to optimize this. Starting from an executive level, we have a research leader, an engineering leader, and a product leader, and they have a sync each week. And that's something that sounds a bit obvious, but it took us a while to understand that they were thinking differently about different topics, but we provided this. Now we brought this sync together, and they are in the same room, and that helps a lot with alignment because research is coming up with new ideas, new innovations. Engineering is building product features, but they also are the ones who are shipping the research algorithms to production because they are empowering the research team, and product is product. So there were loads of alignments that had to be made. The platform team, which basically is the bridge between the front end and the product and the research, sits within engineering, and that's the most crucial, that the researchers and the platform engineers are in correlation. We have an office first culture, and we made them sit next to each other, so it's fairly easy. And in that case, ever since we made the step, there is a much better flow of communication that we see, and alignment. There's some camaraderie going on between them. One other thing that I would say that we have a really product-focused research leadership. So they understand, what are the values of each of these research threads, and it's a different delivery and timeline. So we take those research, we consider those research projects in months instead of weeks for an engineering team. But there is no real ceremony or cadence for the product team to be in touch with the individual researchers. It's probably our research leader who is leading the charge there in ensuring that they have a product focus in the research team as well. Maybe one more thing that's worth highlighting is that we do really thorough interviewing for sort of product-focused engineers, because we want to build a product-focused engineering organization. So they proactively challenge designs, product decisions, business understanding, and that is how we want to drive promotions as well. There's this model called the Silicon Valley engineer. Why Silicon Valley? The engineering organizations have been historically performing so well, and we want to model that as well, and hire for this product-led mentality. It's a bit hard on the research team because researchers are a bit different characters. We primarily focus that on the engineering team, to be honest.
Yeah, great. And I'm seeing different models in different companies, and in some companies, the research team and the engineering team is infused together. But typically, I think in your world, there's so much of pure research to be done, which is not about coding, but the math and the video and high failure rate, that I think that's what I've seen, kind of the delta, right? I also think your research is very narrowly focused, probably on video, which also makes a lot of sense. And then the last thing, and I've seen this again for a bunch of companies, and I think you raised that too, is the cadence of the research team is slower than the cadence of the engineering team. You said months versus weeks, because it just sometimes takes these experiments a bit longer. And I've seen companies make that mistake where if they apply the same cadence, you give up too quickly on potentially a thread that could yield results, right? So I was intrigued to hear that you explicitly talked about the slower cadence. That doesn't mean they're slower, but it's just that the cycle loop is a little bit more patient, let's say, because that's what fundamental research requires.
Yes, exactly. And additionally to that, what we realize is that you could easily make the mistake that you are initiating loads of research threads as you scale your research team. We see that mistakes done by many other companies in our space as well. And what we do instead is we have specific research directions that are in connection with our company strategy and order of magnitude value for our target audience. And we assign multiple researchers for a single thread. So we have parallel initiatives. So research fails, usually. What we have to achieve is fail as fast as possible and ensure that one thread succeeds eventually. So that is our strategy on that and how we are conducting research.
Great, wonderful. Well, this has been a very insightful conversation. Thank you, Dominik.